Hey, this is Seagrove, and today I'm joined by Dillon Bussert, who is someone I really look up to and respect in the Pokemon community. Especially, he is on the professor side of it, more well known for that, I suppose. But Dylan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Thanks for having me on. My name is Dillon Bussert. I'm a professor for Pokemon. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina, which is on the coast. And I've been running a local league in Wilmington for about 2 years now and pretty involved in organizing local events and then judging at the regional level.
Okay. So I started this series about, I'm calling Professorship, about being a judge and an organizer and a league owner. And actually came up with the idea after a conversation I had with Dylan. So I asked him to come on to talk about being an organizer because he really helped me out a lot. I felt very lost at sea and like I was in over my head, especially on the organizer side of being a professor. And he's been very helpful. So he's going to help us talk through a bunch of things like doing a league, running tournaments, reporting and ordering like as a league owner, and stuff like that. So I may have just said something that makes no sense, but he knows what's going on. So why don't you go ahead and um, get us started on leagues, like talking about your league or.
Sure. Yeah. So I've been running a league in my local town for about 2 years now, and I got involved in Pokemon with my kids. They were interested in playing. They had found out about it from school, and so we were checking it out, and we just attended our local league. We had a lot of fun. We went to a league challenge, and my kids were really enjoying it. So I decided it was a good hobby and something we want to get involved in, and something I personally enjoyed. And what I found was just from going to league and participating is there's a lot of work that has to be done. And our organizer was just doing a good job of it. But in order to kind of grow the league and do bigger and more stuff, he really needs some help. So I started getting involved and for me, I wanted to just learn a lot. Just what is being a professor?
Right.
How do you run a league? And so, I just sort of started on my journey of figuring those things out. I learned a lot from our existing league owner, and so, over the past couple of years, it's been fun to learn just at the local level, and then even branching out at the more of the regional, our North Carolina and South Carolina areas, and then the regionals, and getting to interact with judges and professors at the the national level. So, learning about league, there's there's a lot of things that go on with leagues, and I think probably most people that don't have to do it don't know how much the people that are running their league actually do.
What
You
is a
know,
league?
yeah. So a league, I didn't start our league, so I didn't have to go through that process. It's actually
Good.
there's quite a lot to it,
Yeah.
and there's always a lot of questions on the professor forum. So like, how do I start my league? But essentially, you apply for a league with Pokemon, and once you're a professor, you go through the whole program of becoming a professor and the background check and all that. And I know you've been doing videos of how people do that. But once you're a professor, then you could start a league, and so you apply for it with Pokemon on the website. I think you go through a process and say where it's going to be, and some, I think, background on it.
So real quick,
But
you can start it if you're a judge or an organizer, either one, or is it
I
just
think I
organizer?
think you just have to be a professor potentially. Maybe you have to be an organizer. I don't
Okay.
think you have to be either of those roles to actually start a league. But like I said, I never actually did it, so
Okay.
I don't know. But you can be a professor without being an organizer or a
I
judge,
didn't
and
know
then
that.
you pass those tests once you're a professor. Like that's the first step is being a professor, and then you pass the test, either a judge test or an organizer test.
Okay.
And it makes sense that an organizer would be the person that runs the league. So that's probably necessary. For me, I got both for TCG, judge, and then organizer because if you run a league, you end up doing all those things.
Right.
So And then you apply for a league, and I think it's a little mysterious how long it takes to get the league, and why some places get it quickly or don't. For us, we're a store-based league, so it's been around for a while, and of course, Pokemon's supporting stores pretty well, and they have pre-releases and things like that. So that's sort of always been the case for our league. It's been there a while.
Okay. So you talked about being a league owner. You mentioned an organizer. What are the different roles within the league?
Yeah, so most people probably don't hear those terms too often. They're very specific to running a league, but essentially the person that essentially started the league was called the league owner.
Okay.
It's possible to transfer ownership, but there is one league owner per league. For our store league, it's an employee of the store is the owner. They started the league, but very often the person who started the league might not be involved. They might have moved on, or they might, if it's a store, they might not be a day-to-day participant, so they need other people to run it. And so, though there's one league owner, you can have multiple league leaders. And so, a league leader is they have to be a professor, and a league owner can basically designate the league functions to that league leader. So they would go into their league management page. The Pokemon.com has a web page that you manage your league, and they can essentially add any professor as a league leader, and then they can allow them to do essentially the basic functions of the league. So for me, I'm a league leader. I didn't start the league, but I have like full power over the league. I can do everything except basically delete the league or
Okay.
transfer ownership. But I do all the cups, I do all the sanctioning, reporting, stuff like that.
Okay.
So essentially, a league leader can do all those things, and you can have multiple. And so I think for big leagues or ones that are well supported, you might have multiple people, and they have different roles, or they might alternate. And so we actually have a couple of league leaders at ours, and that way we can take turns like running tournaments and playing in them and things like that. So it's pretty good to actually have multiple league leaders because they can help out the owner.
Okay. And you mentioned a few different tournaments. What are the different types of tournaments? I know there's like sanctioned, unsanctioned, premier events, and some things that are premier events seem to me like they shouldn't necessarily be. But
Yeah.
what are the talk to us about tournaments?
Yeah, it's the whole tournament structure is kind of confusing from the outside. People use these terms like sanctioned and unsanctioned, and what's the difference? I think probably the easiest designation is okay. So unsanctioned tournaments would be things that don't show up on Pokemon.com. So you might have your weekly store tournament that they run, mixed age groups. So all the juniors and seniors and masters all play together. They might not use the official tournament manager, Tom. They use their local one or some website, and they run normal tournaments. And we call those unsanctioned tournaments, and those happen all over the place, and they're great. A lot of stores do that because they kind of fit into how they do their model, and they want
Hmm.
people to have a normal round robin tournament. And so you wouldn't find those on Pokemon.com, but maybe you would see them on like Facebook or
Right.
things like that.
And
And
anyone
an
can run
unsanctioned,
one of those, right?
yeah, anyone could run those, and that's basically sort of the catch-all for saying it's a Pokemon tournament. It just wasn't sanctioned by Pokemon.com.
Okay.
And so you might see people running different rules in unsanctioned tournaments. Maybe they're not following the exact rule book, or they allow proxy. They want to allow proxies in tournaments and things like that, and that's perfectly fine. And there's plenty of good stores that will do sort of their weekly without sanctioning it.
Right.
Sanctioning, but a sanctioned tournament, on the other hand, would be something that's created through Pokemon.com. So there's for professor, you'd have to be a professor to do it, and then have the organizer role, and then you would go into the website and you can. There's buttons that allow you to create a tournament. And so what you'll see on Pokemon.com, if you go to the event locator, if you're searching for tournaments, you'll see different designations. And this is actually, I couldn't figure out when I first started playing, like what the different colors meant on the event
Right.
locator. And so you'll see things called like League Challenge, right? But you also see tournament. I was like, well, what's a tournament? Do I get CP for that? What does that mean? And that's, that would be called a sanctioned tournament, but it's not a premier event. So it's not a League Challenge. It's not a League Cup. It's basically a Pokemon tournament that has been created through Pokemon.com. It's going to show up on the event locator, and they're supposed to run it with according to the Pokemon rules. They should use the tournament, Tom. They should use the rule book of, for a local tournament. And so essentially, when Pokemon is sanctioning a tournament, they're saying you know what it's going to be like. You know what the rules are. You know that a professor, an organizer, is running it, so they're competent and they know the rules to follow. And so that's sort of like the next step up from unsanctioned, I guess.
Could those be formats other than standard, expanded, things like that, or does that have to be unsanctioned?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a couple of different formats that are in the rules and that show up on Pokemon.com that allow you to pick. So
Okay.
if you see like the format when you look at the what shows up on the Event Locator, you'll often see standard and expanded. Sometimes you'll see limited. Limited would be for pre-releases.
Right.
And then I think there's some other ones that show up, but they're obviously very rare. Of course, mostly standard and expander, what people are playing. So
Okay.
you don't see the other ones, but the choices are limited, and the website basically tells you what you can do.
Okay.
And then that's even narrow in league challenges, where league challenges could only be standard or expanded because that's what the rules for premier events are.
Okay.
So
what's a premier event?
yeah, so premier events, and like you're saying, it's a little fuzzy, but I tend to think of them as they're events that provide CP, that build towards a world championship invite. Now, pre-releases actually fall under premier events when you look at them, but for most people, it's probably not what they think of when they think of premier events. So that's more of a quirk of the system.
Yeah.
But the premier events that you would see at a local level would be league challenges and league cups. So, those are the two different types of tournaments that a league can run, in addition to pre-releases. But for CP, those are the two that they can run. And your league owners or league leaders, if the league meets certain criteria, they can create those tournaments, sanction them, and then that's how we earn CP playing at the local level.
Okay. Some people for their leagues around here, one that I've been involved with only does tournaments. They never do like have a plain league day, or that's not exactly true, but basically they never have just a league. Is that fine? Is that normal? I mean,
I think that's pretty normal. I know of other leagues, some that we go to in Myrtle Beach. They have a tournament every week, and I like, I think at a league level, that's a good thing. There's a lot of regularity to it. People expect it. People prepare for it. They'll show up for it. On the other hand, there's a lot of leagues that are maybe more casual, more focused on just learning and having fun, challenging each other. And so that's what you maybe think of as more of like a typical league, but leagues really, there's all kinds of leagues and there's many of them out there, and even towns will have multiple and they differ in different ways. So I think it's doing a tournament every week is pretty cool. I enjoy going to them when I can. So it's nice to know it's going to happen no matter what.
Yeah, and Pokemon has no preference either way.
No, I mean, if you think of like, you might think of like league challenges as superior to regular tournaments, and then league cups as, even superior to those. But, for a league challenge, you can only run one a month. You're never going to, any single league can't run more than one. So, if people want to play in a competitive environment for the other 3 or 4 weeks of the month, then you would run a tournament. So I think, league challenges are more of like a complement to regular tournaments, if you want to give people opportunities to play and be competitive with each other.
Right. So pre-releases can only be sanctioned by one person. Is that the league owner or is that someone else?
Yeah, so that kind of gets into some of the quirks, and like I said, there's a lot to learn about running a league, and a lot of it's been changing, especially with cups and the pre-releases. So some of this has been even new for us. I think it's in some ways getting better. In some ways, we're left scratching our heads of like, I didn't know that was going to happen that way. But essentially, for pre-releases, the way that it works is the TPCI rep for stores will send out an email to typically the stores. They have like a certain every league has an email on it. The league owner has a designated email on their league, so they'll like mass mail every store-based league and say, go submit this form that has all the info for this upcoming pre-release. And so the pre-release form will have information about your location, essentially how much product you want to pre-order, and then who the organizer is that's going to actually sanction and then run the pre-releases. And so there you can put anybody's name that's an organizer. And so for me, I run the pre-releases, even though I'm not affiliated with the store. I'm a league leader, but I put my name in there. And then when the sanctioning window happens, which basically means Pokemon says you may now schedule pre-releases on Pokemon.com, then when I log into there, I'll get a special button. I can go to create a tournament, and then now like a new drop down showed up. And so when I used to be able to create a normal tournament, say a weekly tournament, now I'll get a new drop down that says Celestial Storm pre-release,
Right.
and I click that, and that's what essentially triggers all the other things on the website to show you as a pre-release.
So it's just whoever's name was submitted.
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
So in some ways, it's if you know who you want to do it, then it's pretty easy. And sometimes there's confusion of like maybe next pre-release you want a different organizer to run it, but they emailed the one who did it last time. So there's some quirks there, and I think those are processes that hopefully they're improving. But I think for organizers that have been doing it, essentially for the past year, they're probably figuring out a lot of how to make things work smoothly, and the good organizers will navigate the system well. And a lot of that's like talking to other people. A lot of professors, they'll share information on the forum, the professor forums, and there's also a really good Discord chat. Plus, the PokeDad Facebook group is a really great place for organizers to share information. So, really, like being successful at the local level, I think the people that is the people that can use the resources that are out there. And often your best resource is talking to other professors. Like, like we were talking and you had some questions, and fortunately I had been through those problems before and I had just knew the answer already.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have known it if I hadn't gone through that myself. And fortunately I could just kind of explain the shortcuts for you, so you didn't have to go through like the difficulty of like struggling through it yourself.
Right. Appreciated it a lot.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna need you to add me to that PokeDad Facebook group too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good. Even today, people were the League Cups for Q4 email came out, and people were talking about it, and there were some questions, and there's a lot of connected people on there, and people that have good experience, and it's just cool to especially to just see organizers communicating real time, because the forums, sometimes it's not easy to talk in real time. So
Right.
the Discord has been pretty good for that. Facebook, of course, too.
Yeah. So you mentioned getting emails about cups and pre-releases. There are certain hoops you have to jump through for each. Do you mind walking us through those?
Yeah. I'll start with League Cups. Well, and even League Challenge is really where it starts. League Challenge. So you can have a league, but you don't automatically get League Challenges. That's not something that comes immediately. Essentially, there's criteria from Pokemon that they want you to meet before your league will get the ability to do League Challenges. I think it might be a little clearer now. When I started and our league did not have League Challenges, essentially you submitted a support ticket and sort of pleaded and said, I've been doing a good job. We host local tournaments. We're reporting. We have good numbers. Can you please allow us to do League Challenges? And I think at that time they were basically looking to see, like, are you legit? Do you know what you're doing? You're representing Pokemon by running League Challenges, and they give CP. So of
Right.
course you don't want to be screwing that up, because that affects the integrity of, say, the World Championships. So you would, if they agreed that you met the criteria, then you would get League Challenges. And League Challenges, essentially, if you do your normal operations of your league, then each month you're allowed to sanction one League Challenge. You're allowed to order the League Challenge promos, and if you keep doing that, you'll be able to do League Challenges every month.
Okay.
League Cups are newer. We've been doing them 2 seasons now, but fortunately for our league, we got in on the initial very first League Cup, so they kind of we didn't have to do anything to get it. But for other leagues that are newer or maybe weren't already doing league challenges at the time, they didn't automatically get league cups. So I know many leagues and good organizers have been working to get league cups. I know even in your Charlotte area, more and more leagues have been getting league cups, but mainly because they've been meeting the criteria. And so the criteria for cups, also not super clear. It's not like you do this checklist of things and hey, you automatically get it.
Right.
It's been more of the same of, do you have league challenges and do you have pre-releases, and have you been running them consistently according to the rules, reporting on time, ordering for your league. And so it's essentially another gate to say, are you doing the things that Pokemon expects? Are you legit? And so then, essentially people get invited to league cups. So you sort of have to be like, Pokemon tells you if you can get league cups. And so if you're already in, just keep doing your normal league stuff. And for the most part, it seems like you'll continue getting them.
Mm-hmm.
We just got ours again, so that's cool. And for other people that don't have them, sort of the best advice is keep doing things according to what Pokemon expects for a league, for a good league, and hopefully you'll be included soon. But I know a lot of good people are still waiting to get their cups, so hopefully hopefully that'll open up.
There's no request or anything like that.
I'm pretty sure. So it used to be that people would request them and support tickets. I think the official guidance is that it's like, don't call us, we'll call you from TPCI.
Right.
So it says keep doing. Essentially it says keep doing the right things and we'll invite you. So it's probably a little hard for organizers to say, well, I don't know when that's going to happen, but really the best advice we can say is just keep running a good league, and hopefully Pokemon will look at you and say that's a place worth having a league cup.
Yeah. There have been a couple within an hour of us that have lost theirs for a quarter for not running league challenges or not running pre-releases.
Yeah, exactly. We saw that in South Carolina and Myrtle Beach as well. They, both the stores there lost theirs in Q3, and that was tough on the players there. And I think it was because they weren't running league challenges. And so I think some of the organizers, got the message of, hey, we need to do these things. They're important. And I think at a general level, it's a good idea from TPCI to say, the leagues that run League Cups should be competent and be running, supporting the other things that Pokemon does. You don't just get to jump from, a sanctioned tournament to a League Cup.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think everybody wishes there was, more cups and more access to their local area. So
right.
It's always, hopefully those stores are meeting the criteria and get them back. And I don't even know if they got them for Q4. So hopefully they did.
Yeah. So you mentioned, like running things properly. What all do you mean by running these things properly? Like what goes into that?
Right. That was like I was saying, just run, there's a lot of work that goes into running a league. That's kind of behind the scenes, and you might not realize as a player what your league leaders or league owner are doing.
Yeah.
Now you're experiencing that as you've taken over helping out a league. But essentially, some of the key things are there's like a monthly things you need to do to keep a league running. And if you don't keep doing them, your league will go inactive. You'll stop getting promos. You'll stop being able to run league challenges, for example. And so there's a constant cycle, and essentially, you have to get in this monthly routine. Essentially, the main things that you would do for a league, some of the key things are reporting and ordering. So reporting happens at the end of each month, and essentially you're supposed to, as the organizer, report everyone that's attending your league. So people that might show up for free play or casual play, people that might attend your sanctioned or unsanctioned tournaments, your league challenges. Essentially, it's your, what you think of as your local league, and people that participate there. And so each month people come, then you would add them to your report. And the report's done. It's a form that's on the Pokemon.com website. You have to have a player ID for everyone you report, and you have to have their birthday. So if they were playing in tournaments and you're using Tom, you would have all that information. So, probably the most common way of reporting is to take the information out of Tom and say, okay, these people played this month, I'm going to report them to Pokemon.com. And if you go to a league on Pokemon.com, you'll see some numbers. It'll give you like 45 people, were part of the April league, and you can look at the history and kind of see how big a league is. So some leagues could be really small because they don't have many people. Some are really big because they meet 3 times a week and they have a huge metropolitan area. But essentially, that's what reporting is, and Pokemon wants to know who's playing and how many are coming, and I assume they use that information because and it's a key requirement to running a league, so you have to do it. So that happens every month, and organizers are expected to accurately report the people that come. So sometimes you'll see some comments online about leagues that are reporting people that don't come to, if you visited a league once, say you travel, you came from Charlotte and you visited my league, I could report you that for attending that month, but I shouldn't do that every month because you didn't come back. Now the one caveat is Pokemon did update the sort of their guidance and says people that you should not report people that attend a league cup, and I think that's geared towards, you have people traveling from far away. They're not really there to interact with your league or attend. It's really for, they're coming for CP. And so, early on before that guidance, we would have reports of really large, 40 people that came from some other area, and I'm boosting my numbers, but in reality, they only came that one weekend. They weren't part of the league. So I think reporting is generally supposed to be, hey, these people are part of your league. You would consider them your locals or something like that. Yeah, you can't count people that come to league challenges, but we know people aren't traveling far for league challenges. So that sort of fits in line with normal tournaments. So when you do a report, sort of the next step on Pokemon.com is you can do your ordering for the month. And ordering is essentially how a league gets promos, and both their league promos as well as their league challenge promos. And so ordering is a very simple step, but essentially once you do your report, let's say I reported 55 people from my league, then my ordering window will open up and it'll say you can order promos for the people that are attending. So, as an organizer, the amount of people that come to your league dictates how many promos you get. And that's how you can give out those promos next month once you've received them. So when you go through ordering, you essentially fill out some check boxes. You tell Pokemon where to send the promos to. You can ship it to a store, your home, wherever. And eventually those promos will show up, and they give some guidance on how you're supposed to distribute those promos to people. And so if you're going to a league and they're doing things right, then they should be getting promos and they should be giving them out to people. And so you can kind of tell if your league organizer is following sort of what they're supposed to do, if they're giving promos. And we, I have people that visit us and they're like, wow, you guys got the promos. And I'm like, everybody should get those. It's not hard. There's nothing special to get promos other than just doing your reporting and ordering every month.
Ours have actually come pretty late the last couple times, but we give them out when we get them. But
yeah, and I think that's something that's important too. Is like most organizers are trying really hard and they want to give their players their best experience. But ordering does have a very long lead time. It takes a while. Sometimes things get messed up.
Yeah.
And so this past year has been a little rocky. I think we had a month where we totally missed the Regirock promo just didn't come at all. And then the next month it came with the Zygardes or whatever they were bundled with, and we got extras. So it's kind of up and down, and so I think league organizers really like to be able to give promos. People expect them. Maybe they see other people are getting them, but we don't always have them. So but a good organizer is going to do their best, and hopefully they just let people know and say, hey, when they come in, we're going to give them out, and that's really the best you can do, because we're kind of we're all in the same boat. We'll wait till Pokemon gives them to us.
Do you give those out every league until you run out, or at league and league challenge, or just at league challenge, or when do you give them out?
Yeah, that's a good question. So there's kind of 2 different promos you get. So there's your league promos, and those are the ones that are stamped league. And then you get, if you have the capability to run league challenges, then you get an additional pack of league challenge promos, and those would be, the 1st through 4th place for 3 different age groups, and you get 1 per month. So you can only run 1 league challenge, so you get 1 pack of those league challenge promos. For league promos, we get a lot of league promos. They're pretty generous. So we, our league, we probably report maybe 40 to 60 players a month. And so you'll get enough promos to give each of those players 4 copies of the promo.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes their promos are good and sometimes they're not. So if they're, a bad card, maybe people only want 1 for their collection because they just want to put it in their binder and remember it. For the good ones that come out, people want 4. So, that comes and goes. But like this upcoming month is actually the Baby Buzzful, so it might be worth getting 4 of those. And we got an Empoleon last month, so it's not a bad one. So you can make a deck out of it. So, but you have enough to give 4 copies to people that attend, and there's some general guidance on how to give out promos. I don't think it's not really strict. There's some people do it based on achieving attendance in a month. So maybe for each week that you attend, you get 1 promo up to 4. So that encourages people to come back. And really, I think the promos are just a way for leagues to encourage people to attend. We have people. We get lots of promos and end up with just a lot of leftover ones. So I'm pretty generous when I give them out. I just want people to enjoy the cards and have value from coming. So I don't really want to put strings around it. So for our league, we mostly give them out, and then all the extras we keep for players that, especially younger kids that come in the future. We'll load them up with promos they missed from before. So it's pretty cool that we can give those out, and and it's nice when they're good and people actually enjoy them and seek them. So as far as the league challenge promos go, of course those are tied to your league challenge. So you should only give them out if you ran the league challenge, and you should only give out the ones that people participated in to award them. So if you didn't have any juniors or seniors, then don't just give them away to people. And but the main thing is that you can give them away, but I guess no one should keep them. You should sort of have a way to give them out. So we actually take our really good promos, League Challenge extras, League Cup extras, and I put them in a blackjack boot. So it's like a whole stack of cards, and you can't see them. And then everyone that attends a League Challenge or League Cup in the future gets to just take a random card out of it. Cool. And so there's like a mix of cool cards. We have some older ones like Volcanion League promos, and there's some Pikachu, there's the gym badges and Pikachus in there. So, it gives people, we just want to make it fun to give away, and we don't really have any other use for them. So we want people to get them in some way.
Cool. So league challenges have their own unique promos. Like cups don't get those, or sanctioned tournaments or anything.
Right.
But there are things that other tournaments require and some don't, like Tom, match flips, and deck lists. You mentioned those in their outline for this. What did you talk us through those?
So if someone's running a sanctioned tournament, and especially if they're it's extra important for league challenges and league cups, but sanctioned tournaments in general, they should be following Pokemon.com's rules. They should be following their guidance for organizers, and that's to use Tom, which is the tournament organizer software that Pokemon provides. And so an organizer should know how to use Tom, and it's actually it's very important. It's pretty good at what it does, but it has some quirks and it takes some learning. But essentially that is, what a sanctioned tournament should use. And, certainly when you go to competitive tournaments and things that award CP, you're always using Tom. You have to use Tom. If you don't use Tom, your tournament's going to be invalidated. It's not going to get you the CP that you were promised. And so that's a really key part. And so, for anyone that's participated in challenges, cups, or regionals, or anything above that, you're probably familiar of the things Tom produces, even if you've never used it yourself. So that's things like pairings, your match slips. Those are all produced by Tom. And so when an organizer uses Tom, they'll take, sort of the 3 key pieces of information they need is they need your pop ID, they need your name, and then your birthday. And so that uniquely identifies you, puts you into the right age group, pairs you with, you're going to be able to be paired with the right people. And once all that information is put into Tom, then the organizer can run the tournament. Essentially, Tom takes care of a lot of the guesswork in running a tournament. So it's going to do all the pairings for you. It's going to pair them according to what Pokemon.com or Pokemon wants. And so, we'll often joke of like, why did Tom do those things? Why did, for me, I have two boys, they got paired against each other in round one of Charlotte Regionals. And
Oh
it was
wow.
like, of the like 70 kids here, why do they have to play each other in the first round? But it's like, Tom, you just blame Tom. And so, it kind of sounds like a person, so it's easy to like blame it. It's a thing. But it's software and it's just doing what it's made to do. And so you just kind of accept it as random, right? Um, so it's going to do the pairings. It's also going to do the age groups and determine how many rounds your tournament should be, as well as things like cut. So if you see, when you see issue, you'll see on Heyfonte or social media, like, this League Cup didn't have the right number of top cut, or they didn't run a top cut at all, or they seeded the wrong players or something like that.
Yeah.
Almost every one of those issues is because either the organizer wasn't using Tom or didn't understand how to use it correctly, or and even then, even if you know what you're doing or not doing anything wrong on purpose, it's pretty easy to make mistakes or sort of
Right.
hit the quirks of Tom, and it's a pretty quirky piece of software. There's complexities to it. Sometimes you don't understand why it's doing things. So a good example is like if you add players to a tournament and say you're under the threshold needed to reach top 8 instead of top 4, and then you pass a certain menu, and then you add more players that were late, you're not going to get a top 8, even though now you think you have enough players to meet that criteria, because you essentially past the point where Tom decided what your cut was. And so and that's not something that's really obvious. It doesn't really make that clear, but you'll see people say, well, we had 23 players, but only got top 4. And then you'll often see people that are very experienced with Tom say, well, did you add a bunch of late players? And they'll say, yeah. And it's like, okay, well, that's why it happened. And that's some of the learning for at the local level that's kind of difficult, is if you have someone that doesn't do a lot of tournaments, they don't interact with regional level judges and organizers, they don't really learn those quirks. And for players, they kind of experience the brunt of that at maybe the League Cup level, where they're visiting a store they're not familiar with, and then they have a lot of problems because the organizer is not doesn't know better that certain things are supposed to happen. And so even like I've been to cups where I played and the organizer was having problems with the cut, and we found out he just had a very old version of Tom. If he had used the newest version, it would have calculated cut for him, but he was trying to do it manually. And I was like, okay, well, one, your tournament will be invalidated if you try to do that and get it wrong. So I helped him. We took the extra time. We downloaded the new Tom, got the tournament rebuilt, but it was worth it because we could actually get CP for it.
Right.
And it helped. He learned that was important to keep the up-to-date version, and he had been using that for local tournaments for a long time, and it was fine. And so I think that's sort of the learning curve for organizers is as they try to do the more complex parts like a cup, maybe the things that they've done for their local league just don't cut it for that level of tournament. And certainly the types of players it attracts, they expect a very high level of of knowledge of how Pokemon does things. And so but you can run a league as a basic organizer, and you have people that are stage 2 professors that are running leagues, and in some cases created Tom.
Yeah.
So,
I think we're gonna need to make a video on like top 10 Tom quirks or something like that.
oh my gosh, that would be a good one. There's a lot of quirks. I think if you ask like 10 different professors, they'll tell you, like, you can even ask them stories like Tom horror stories. Like Pokepop will talk about like the crazy things Tom has done, and it's pretty good. You see a lot of the horror stories from the past where it would do really weird stuff. Now it's at least consistent with what it does, and there's not many bugs in it. There's a few, but it's pretty good now. It's a lot better than it was before, and so it took a lot of hard work from a few people to do that.
So, in terms of paper match slips and deck lists, when are those required?
So I'm pretty sure they're required for premier events. That's for our store, we only do league challenges and league cups, so we always require them. I believe it's only for premier events, and so it's like things that are giving CP, and again, pre-releases don't fit into that. And so of course we're doing like tier 1 events, and so we have to require deck lists because we want to ensure, people aren't switching up cards,
Right.
that, holding up the integrity of the tournament, because of course CP means World Championship, so we always want to make sure people are, playing fairly. And so deck lists are required. Match slips used to not be required, actually. They were Tom produces them, and they're useful, but some people, they felt comfortable just having the winner walk up to them and they would check the button, or they would, write it all down and then put it in at the end. But about, I think, maybe in the November of last year, rule changes, the rules specifically state that paper match slips are required.
For
I think
challenges and
that's
cups.
challenges and cups, right, for these
Okay.
premier events. It's I think it's a good thing, even though it kind of wastes some paper, and people, other card games don't necessarily require that. They do a lot of more digital, but it gives a paper trail of, who, are you playing the right person? Who was the winner? Did you sign it? And so if there is inconsistency, something gets entered wrong, you can at least trace it back and say, well, this is why it happened. Maybe, who messed it up? Somebody signed it
Right.
wrong. Somebody entered it wrong. So I think it's a good thing, and the intention's good there. If you don't have a printer, you should get a printer for your league. And you're supposed to do match slips. So, and I think it's good. Like we do it. I like doing it at local league because when our players go to regionals, I want them to be able to fill out their match slip correctly and
Right.
know the etiquette to say the winner should take their match slip and make sure it's filled out correctly, so you get the wins that you're supposed to. So it's good practice at the local level, and just a good thing in general.
Okay. Um, do you want to talk about the event locator, or do you feel like you
Sure.
got that? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned it multiple times. The event locators on Pokemon.com. It's a way to see all the sanctioned events that are out there. It's good, for finding league cups. That's probably like the number one reason that I use it, is when I'm looking about who sanctioned what in the Carolinas. Then I'm going there, and so it gives you a couple options of searching by zip code, the type of event, and then there's the advanced search. And the advanced search is probably like the most useful piece, because you can filter by just league cups. I think the searching could be a little bit better, more user friendly. Sometimes, there's a lot of stuff, information you have to wade through to figure out what you really want. But essentially, I think the main takeaway is that the event locator is going to show sanctioned tournaments, and that's your way to find. It's also your way to find leagues that are nearby. So it's really the main way to find stuff, for leagues and local tournaments.
And then we've already sort of hit on these as well, but if you want to add anything, reporting and ordering, I think we can get into some details there. Um, but you definitely hit on them. But as much as you want to add,
Yeah.
feel free.
I think the main, one of the things is reporting and ordering happens in a short period. It opens and then it closes, and it's usually about a week.
Yeah.
That's one of the tough parts of being running a league, is you might have stuff going on with your personal life and just not remember to do it, and you can miss the deadlines and miss out on essentially your promos for the month. But if you do it enough, and you miss it enough, you might lose your challenges or lose your cups. So it's really important, and that's one of the, like I said, the key things that you have to do. It's kind of nice if you had multiple people who are willing to do it, then anybody could report for the league, and it's not just on your shoulders. But for me, like I
Any
do the
leader or
reporting.
organizer. I mean, any
Um,
leader or owner.
yeah, if the leader has been given delegated the ability to do reporting. So there's like check boxes that say this person's allowed to do ordering, reporting, sanctioning challenges. So assuming somebody gave you all the capabilities, then
Right.
you as a league leader could do it. So it is one of the key things to keep your league running, is to do those. And if you miss out, it's unfortunate. You can't really undo it. So you just have to be very regular. And I think that's a key part of being an organizer, is literally being organized,
Mm-hmm.
remembering to do these things. Because if you're forgetful or just not in a good rhythm, then your league's going to suffer for it. And you might miss out on some of the, cool things like challenges and cups, because you forget to do your reporting and ordering. So, you can't stress that enough, that a league should just do that every month.
Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna have a video up within a month, maybe at least within two, about like how to actually order. Um, showing that. So,
Yeah.
um, okay. Anything else? I know there were other things about that. I guess we talked about that, the promos and
Yeah.
distributing them. So
Yeah, exactly.
cool. So I'm running a tournament, and there are different levels of this, but not enough people show up. Maybe I don't have enough for 8 total, or maybe I don't have enough for 8 for a certain division. What happens?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Pokemon's rules say you have the minimum size of any tournament has to be 8 players, and so for something that's sanctioned, you cannot run a premier event without having those 8 players. And I don't think you could run a
Yeah, I
sanctioned
don't think
tournament,
so.
a regular tournament. I don't think you could do that either. But um, I guess maybe the main thing is for things that are called tournaments, it maybe doesn't matter a lot because you don't gain anything. It just gives you like play points or something. There's
Right.
really not much there. It tracks your performance, but you get nothing out of it anyway. So it's not a big deal. So I think people really care about challenges and cups, and if you don't have enough players, you can't actually run it. So you as an organizer, you have to go in and typically at the end of a tournament, you would upload the TDF file, or it's the file that Tom produces that has all your results. You would upload that if your tournament actually ran. But if
Wow.
you don't have 8 players, you have to cancel the tournament. So you would see a tournament as marked as like canceled, which means it never happened. And so Pokemon requires you to tell them what happened in your tournament. So if you don't get 8, you have to cancel it. You're more than welcome to run like a fun tournament that's not reported to Pokemon with like whoever did attend, and we'll do that in some cases if we don't get enough people. But you can't do the league challenge if you didn't have 8. You're not supposed to give out the promos
Right.
if you didn't run the league challenge.
And that's 8 total, not in one division.
Hmm. Exactly. So, the Pokemon is agnostic about the age groups. I mean, obviously we have 3 age groups and you might have differing amounts of people. Your league might be focused around certain, reaching out to different age groups. So it's just 8 total. Tom, is where you can get into a lot of detail about Tom, but Tom knows what to do for different age groups and how to pair them together and who should play who, and it'll decide all those things. So as long as you have 8 across any 3 age groups, you can run that premier event, for example, and it'll count for CP. So you could have, you can see some cups have 8 people or 9 people, and you can run it just like any other cup because it met the rules of Pokemon. And so that's the main thing. And essentially Tom will tell you whether you can run the tournament. If you only put 7 names in there, it'll tell you you can't run this tournament, or you can't run it for premier status. You could run it just for fun.
The other question is, if you're running a league challenge, you don't get the promos, or you're running a cup, you haven't gotten the mat or
Yeah.
whatever it may be.
Yeah, it's pretty relevant. We I think I've done at least 7 cups. I think only one of them we've actually had our promos and mats and the time to actually run it. And like I said, I like running them earlier in the quarter anyways
Right.
because most of the other stores aren't. So I just take it as I just let players know beforehand it might not be here. I always tell the players I'll get you your mats somewhere or another. I'll try to get you the promos. If you want your promo, just hit me up at the next cup. So I always keep the promos around, but a lot of people are looking for CP, and the promos is just kind of nice to have.
Right.
So pretty often you won't have your materials in time. We've seen some delays in that. It's been sporadic. For this last Cup series, we got our Greninja mats, and we gave out Greninja mats because those are the only mats that we had. So
Right.
we gave them out, and so now we got our Leafeon mats, so we're giving those out for Q4, and it's just the way it is. So organizers will deal with what they have and make sure they're trying to treat their players the best they can. So if an organizer doesn't have it, I think there's not really clear guidance from Pokemon on what they should do, the best way to handle things. And so I think for a player, probably the main thing is you can ask the organizer, via Facebook or call the store, do you have your promos? Do you have your mats? And if they don't, it's pretty fair to ask, well, how do you plan to handle that? You don't blame the organizer because they don't get to decide when the mat shows up, and they're trying to run a tournament the best they can and hopefully try not to conflict with other stores. So sometimes you have to run it before you get the stuff. But it's pretty fair to ask the organizer, well, what can we do about this? And especially for anyone that wins a cup, it's probably a good discussion to have is, how do I get my mat? good organizers will work with you, say, I'll hold it for you. A lot of times I deliver mats to people at regionals when I know they're going to see them. It's pretty easy to stay in touch with anybody on Facebook, and I have parents that email me when their kids, are asking. So I kind of go out of my way to make sure I can get the mats to them. And I think good organizers are going to do their best. Not everyone's going to follow that same model. They might say, come back to our store, and you might have traveled 3.5 hours for a cup and might not want to go back there.
Right.
So, you might not get the mat. Pokemon doesn't say an organizer has to ship it to you and, spend the $7 and ship it nicely or something like that. So it's kind of, on a case by case basis. But it's always fair to ask an organizer, well, what do you do?
Yeah.
And, can we work something out? Can I see you another time? And I think at a minimum, hopefully they'll say, well, if you come to a cup in the future, I'll hold it for you. I think that's always fair. And, you just try to work with them. I think hopefully every organizer's trying to give their best, the best
Right.
experience for their players.
For sure. Well, thank you so much for this video. And I'm going to have videos that sort of support like a step-by-step how to do some of the things that you were talking about, like with visuals for people who learn that way.
Yeah.
But this is really, really good. Is there anything you would like to add or any shout outs you want to give?
Yeah, I just want to say thanks for your YouTube channel. Thanks to Seagrove. I think it's really cool stuff. I appreciate how you interact and want to teach people and share knowledge. I really like that. And, this kind of resource would have helped me when I was starting. So I'm always happy to give back.
Thank you.
Just say hey to my local league, Cape Fear Games in Wilmington, North Carolina. We have an awesome store. We always try to put on a good experience for our players, and we always like it when people come by. So I think our cup's going to be June 17th. I probably should have looked it up beforehand, but so we'll have a cup for Q4, and just good luck to all the players that are trying to get their invite. Good luck, and we'll see you around. I'll be at Roanoke Regionals. So I'll be judging, so hopefully get to see some local players there.
Very cool. All right, thanks.
Yeah, man. Take care.